So let's look at filling a shape with fly stitch. I forgot what it was called there for a second. So I like to have like a center line if I'm filling a leaf. And because of the shape of fly stitch, I find it helpful to begin with a straight stitch down the center. And then it's up to you, like how steep you want your fly stitches angled. So if you go down up here, well, you're going to have to do a lot more fly stitches, and they're going to be not as at an extreme angle at the top, right? Versus if you come down way down here, it's going to be a little different. So you can kind of see here, this stitch wasn't quite as long as this one. So you have, obviously this one's, there's more separation between the stitches too. So that's another variable to play with, but let me talk less and stitch more here. So we're gonna go create those fly stitches all the way down. And I actually have everything touch along this line, so I'm gonna try to come up where I went down for that straight stitch and then make my anchor stitch right here and continue. And I try to make those anchor stitches small, just trying to tack down the fly stitch. You're just going to continue like that all the way down the shape of your leaf. So for some variations, off to the right here, we have filling half a shape at a time. Grab my next needle here. So it's kind of wonky. I've actually never done it before. I was just playing around to see how else we could fill using these guys. So instead of having them like stacked within each other, this kind of just has them stacked next to each other. So just to show you what that looks like in action. So in this case, I'm like lining up those anchor stitches so they're next to each other. But you could, so see how there is kind of like a gap here? You could alternate it. So you could have each, maybe we should try that. Uh-oh. Who knows where where the video will go if I'm going to try something new. Oopsies. I got myself into a bit of a mess here. Let's see. I'm using some floss I used for something else, and it was starting to fray a little bit, and now I needed another needle to pickle myself. Here we are. All right. All right, so that's if we do both sides. So let's see. There was actually two things I wanted to look at. So one would be if we have a leaf shape and we go down the center like here, but what if we have our center line like off to the side? And then the other option would be doing what we just did, but what if we do kind of more of an alternating stack of those stitches? So let's see if we can make sense of any of that. So for this variation, we would still do our center line. I really like just this classic way of doing it. I think it looks really neat how it kind of looks like a bead down the center almost. So I'm gonna come up off to the right along my guideline. So basically, we're still going to create that little bead, but it'll be off to the side. I just kind of wanted to see what it would look like, just to add a little variation. I don't think this has a name. It's just a variation. And I'd encourage you to try stuff like this. Hey, what would it look like if... Sometimes it works and sometimes it definitely doesn't, but you never know, right? You gotta try new things. There's not like a set rule of what stitches you are allowed to use and or never to vary from them. We can do what we want, right? It's interesting because it looks like my leaf shape itself was, as far as I could tell, I mean, I just sketched it on there quick, but it seemed pretty just regular like the other shapes, but filling it like this almost makes it look like it's curved. Since that center line is curved, it kind of gives the impression that the leaf is curving. Call this the last one. And what you can do also with your last stitch, if you want to make your anchor stitch longer, I can just stop it here, go a little longer to make the edge kind of look more sharp, or to make it look like the stem of the leaf. Okay, so over here, let me try this alternate version. So I won't worry too much on this first one. What am I stuck on here? I have a little knot in the back here. There we go. Just a twisty knot. These are pretty weird looking fly stitches, huh? Very angled. I don't know if we can actually fit another stitch in here. Alright, so for the other side, instead of having my fly stitches be exactly next to each other, I'll have one end in this little gap and one end right there. So I don't know if that means I'm just going to do two on this side. We'll see what happens. It almost reminds me of a Cretan stitch, because then it gets that kind of back and forth center line. I'll tuck in here. It's interesting. It almost looks like a fir branch to me. Probably in part because my leaf itself is so narrow, but do you guys see a fir branch? I see a fir branch. It does look different than this for sure, having the staggering where those fly stitches on either side come together. So there we go. Look at all those variations. How fun. All right, enjoy your fly stitch fill.